underestimate the power of PlayStation.
Beyond.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 333. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller. Alongside, he only does everything, Colin Moriarty. Beyond, how are you?
It's called a show. It's been a good day.
Call it a show already?
Yeah, it's done.
Yesterday I told you to shave the beard.
Yeah.
Today it's not looking that bad. Give me a chin up. Look up. Look, you're proud of yourself. Yeah, okay. If it feels a little on the sides, I think I'll be happy with it.
Yeah, it's not going to.
When are you going to shave it?
I don't know.
All right, fine.
I don't really know when I'm going to shave it. It's really itchy. I just haven't shaved it because I'm profoundly lazy.
Yeah, I know that. Then over here, the goddess of girl fright, Megan Sullivan.
What's up?
Hey, Megan, you're making your return to Podcast Beyond. How are you?
I am. It's been a while.
It has been. Sorry, we've been busy.
That's okay.
You know how I always tell you.
We've been busy.
You always
We've been
want,
busy.
You always want to be on the show, and then I always forget because we always forget it's Beyond Day till it's Beyond Day, and then it's like, we run around.
That's fine. I'm here now. That's good.
Oh God, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Oh, I already know what you're doing. Do you want to do it now?
No.
You have something planned?
Nope.
Ugh. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, this is IGN's PlayStation Podcast, the number one PlayStation podcast on the internet. Let's begin with what is and forever will be the Roper Report. Time for some news. Good job, Sullivan. This is why you're invited back. This is why you're invited back.
This is so ridiculous. I listen to this podcast. I know how this goes.
So many people come on here and they fake it. They don't know. What they're
totally
doing.
fake it. But no, I know.
They
myself.
don't know
We should
shit.
point out too that this is an extended episode. You're
is.
getting your usual dose of an hour of us, and then another hour with Chris Zimmerman from Sucker Punch talking about Infamous. We'll
Is it
insert
an hour?
somewhere.
Did we talk about it that long?
It's like 50 minutes.
Wow.
It's close enough. I'm
I didn't
calling
know.
it an hour.
Call it.
I remember to cut out the part where Nick interrupts too.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
That's good.
I should do that on the audio version.
There are 10 items on the list. A lot of these are combined to make it shorter, so we don't have 8,000 this game was announced stories.
Okay.
I figured you'd enjoy that this week.
Psyched.
All
I
right.
got how many Danganronpas were announced?
I don't know. I wish there were
I'm
more.
super stoked that so many people are buying Danganronpa and then tweeting us about it because they can't get the way I pronounce it out of there.
Yeah, Danganronpa.
You got that Danganronpa up there.
Number one. Amy Hennig, the creator, writer, and creative director of the Uncharted franchise, has officially left Naughty Dog. IGN sources noted that Hennig was, quote, forced out, end quote, of the studio, and that Uncharted 4 would be taken over by The Last of Us' tandem of Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley. Sony confirmed Hennig's departure, but Naughty Dog took issue with Druckmann and Straley being somehow blamed for Hennig's departure, categorically denying it, and noting that decisions like this go through the studio co-presidents Evan Wells and Christoph Balestra. Sony's Scott Rhodey told IGN that he doesn't agree with the terminology, quote, forced out, end quote, and that, quote, things change and sometimes change involves very high-profile individuals, end quote. Regardless of when it went down, we wish Amy Hennig nothing but the very best.
What a shitty situation for all parties involved. And I'm not talking about IGN and then Sony saying that's not how it happened, or Naughty Dog saying. I just mean these three people and the studio, Amy in general, right? Like, we're lucky enough to have worked in this industry for a while, covered PlayStation for a while. Everyone at Naughty Dog, stand-up human beings, who I enjoy quite a bit, let alone these three names being named, let alone Amy leaving the studio after making all these Uncharted. It's just, what a terrible week.
Yeah, it's a bad week. Yeah, I mean, we personally know every single person we just talked about.
Right.
And are friendly with all these people. So, yeah, I mean, there's not much more to add other than, it sucks to see Amy go. I mean, I really think she helped catapult Naughty Dog into super relevance with Uncharted. I mean, I think a lot of people remember Crash Bandicoot, know how well those games sold. Still probably the best-selling games, actually. But then Jak and Daxter came out. Those games were good, and they did well. But Naughty Dog became critically relevant, I think, with Uncharted.
Right. Breakout hit.
It's not like anyone was talking about how much better Crash Bandicoot was than Mario 64, or how much better Jak and Daxter was than Ratchet, because that wasn't happening. So, like, Uncharted was better than everything else that was coming out. And, I think they owe a great deal to her contributions.
Yeah.
Which they hired her to do this. So I'm interested to see where she ends up, and I'm sure she'll have no issue finding a job. In the meantime, I hope that we have some clarity at some point about what happened. It seems like Naughty Dog and Sony have said their piece. So
yeah. The Naughty Dog statement, right, is from Christoph and Evan, and it basically ends. Now we're going to get back to doing what we do in making games, which, I totally get, right? That's the weird part about our business, is that we fluctuate this fine line, right, between, hey, we're talking about how much we love video games and how great this is, and you should buy this game, or you should avoid this game, and then all of a sudden we have to be like, all these people got laid off, and there's this drama, and this is, you know what I mean? It's like, we have such a weird enthusiast press relationship with everything, just news in general, that for them to have to do this. The big question, Colin, is what do you think this means for Uncharted PS4?
I don't know. I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
I mean, Neil and Bruce, if they are going to work on Uncharted, both have experience already working on Uncharted.
Right,
they know that
Uncharted
series,
2.
especially with Uncharted 2, which is considered by many, not me, but many, and not you, but many considered to be the best Uncharted game. So their pedigree, especially with The Last of Us, is unquestioned, and I think the game is going to be just fine.
Right.
It's just sad to see Amy go. I mean, but we have to remember that while she, advised on Golden Abyss, she didn't write that game. She didn't, make that game. So, and that turned out to be a great Uncharted game. I think that better than Drake's Fortune even. So, just because she's not there doesn't mean that the Uncharted games are going to die.
It's a public breakup, but it's not like everybody. It's not. We always talk about this, right? Or when we have somebody on, even when we had Chris Zimmerman, who you hear on this show, talking about Sucker Punch and Infamous, right? Like, there's always more than one person who makes a game. You know what I mean? There's so many creative influences coming around that I don't think you have to worry about it. I thought it was really not bizarre, but interesting that Sony's statement the night of the story that IGN posted was, yes, we can confirm Amy's left, and this doesn't impact the production schedule of Uncharted. It's like, that was a weird thing to say, right? Like, we don't even know what the development timeline of Uncharted PS4 is, so...
Yeah, my assumption will be fall 2015.
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds about right.
Yeah, so, we wish everyone the very best. Okay. Especially Amy, who, as we said, we both know personally. We're both, friendly with Amy, and... Yeah. I'm super intrigued to see what she does next. She has, people forget she wrote Legacy of Kain. Like before she wrote Uncharted, she worked on Jak 3. She worked on all of these games for EA back in the 90s. She has a wide range of abilities that goes beyond this pulp.
Beyond
This pulp, action drama that they created. And so she's capable of doing other things, and I'm interested to see what ideas have been marinating in her head that she is now allowed to move on to. Yeah.
All right.
Let's just hope for the best.
Yeah, that's all you can do, Megan.
Yep, exactly.
Keep on hope.
All right, that's good. Number 2. Jack Tretton is stepping down as president and CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment America effective April 1st. Tretton started at PlayStation in 1995. He will be replaced by Sean Layden, who comes from Sony Network Entertainment International. We wish Tretton the best in his future endeavors. Again, another person we know personally.
I know.
And it's very sad to see him go. He was always very, very nice to me. And to you.
Yeah.
I always like that he knew your name.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he remembered you. That's a good thing. Executives, I guess, get to that point.
He got there through
largely because they have...
shaking hands, remembering names.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you have to do that. How many people does he know and meet? And, But he was always super friendly and, sad to see him go. I don't know why he's leaving, but he wants to do something else. He was there for 19 years.
I think that's the big thing, right? Like, I talked a little bit about this on GameScoop, I believe, right? The fact that what else is left for him to do? How many more mountains are there? I think leaving during the PlayStation 3 era would have not put a sour taste in his mouth, right? But to go out with, PS3 struggled at launch. It caught up in the end, but in consumer mindshare, right, it was never really on par. It was never surpassing Xbox 360. You had the PlayStation fans, but in terms of numbers and yada, yada, yada. I think now you come out with this PlayStation 4 thing, huge launch, you're way ahead of Xbox One. It seems like everything's going your way. Leave now on top rather than, let the flow of the industry continue. He always talked about that when I'd interview him, right? The fact that everything comes in waves and that, it's this never-ending process of repeating yourself and doing this.
Should have left after Vita came out. I'm sorry.
That was the king. That was probably the one.
I was just going to say, I associate him so much with PlayStation. So it's kind of strange that he's leaving.
Right. Yeah. It's going to, that was the big conversation. Who's going to host the E3 press conferences now?
Yeah.
Who's going to come out at first and talk? I say Shu and Adam.
Adam, probably not. I would say, I love Adam, but I would say it would probably be Andy House.
Here's the thing, though, is I think that Sony's changed its perception, or the PlayStation brand has changed its perception with consumers, right? Like PlayStation 4, their whole ad campaign, everything was spot on, right? And the fact of, hey, everybody, we're PlayStation, we're games, this is what we do, we're really cool. Here's, the Shu and Adam video of them exchanging the game, and that's really funny, and ha ha ha. I think you bring out Andy, and I love Andy, don't get me wrong, but I think he seems very suitish. Right, he comes out and he seems like an executive and he seems like a high-level guy. Whereas if you bring out Adam and Shu or whatever, Shu comes out and introduces everything, then passes it off to Adam. Because as we've talked about before, it's kind of ridiculous that Sony puts out videos with Shuhei in them and captions it when Shu's speaking English. But clearly, there's people out in the PlayStation world who don't immediately understand what he's saying.
Yeah, it's a little weird because I think he speaks actually.
Yeah,
I think he does too.
Really
I know. We all agree, but there's someone in Middle America who doesn't get it. I guess probably former little Greg Miller would have been the same way. So yeah, have him come out, introduce it like at kind of Gamescom when he was playing on the controller and doing all the fun stuff and starting the present. Have fun with it, especially for E3. You know what I mean? Like CESs and stuff like that. That's where you continue to have your shirt and tie guy come out. That's what Greg Miller would do.
Okay. I agree. I think you should have the more personable, fun-loving people come out at E3 and get people hyped up for these games. So, yep.
You don't think Andy House is going to be getting the house going for...
Wouldn't it be great if he had a catchphrase and he's just trying to make it? I'm Andy House, and I'm here to rock your house with PlayStation. Show them PlayStation All-Stars 2.
Number 3. In a conversation with IGN, Sony's Scott Rhodey discussed Drive Club's failure to launch on PlayStation 4, noting that the delay, quote, comes back to the fundamental principle, and that's that we don't want to... I'm going to start this again. I can't speak.
All right, cool. Beyond. What's up, everybody? Welcome to...
Number 3. In a conversation with IGN. This is why it's weird. It's a conversation with me. Sony Scott Rhodey discussed Drive Club's failure to launch on PlayStation 4, noting that the delay, quote, comes back to the fundamental principle, and that's that we want to build great games. And we really don't want to release a game before it's ready, end quote. He went on to note that the company is, quote, willing to eat the cost, end quote, of the delay to make the game great. And, quote, go back to the drawing board and make sure that the game is great before we ship it. And that's what we're doing right now with the game. That's what's going on right now with the game, is actually the direct quote, end quote. Interestingly, Rhodey wouldn't tell me if the game is still slated for 2014, though Sony PR tells me that we'll have more information soon. That game is in some state of development hell, I assume, but maybe not. I don't know.
Gary writes into beyond@ign.com, just like you can to be part of the show. He says Beyond. So WTF is up with this train wreck at Sony. Of the 4 AAA exclusives for PlayStation 4, Drive Club, Deep Down, The Order 1886, and Infamous, it looks like only Infamous will be released. Only one AAA exclusive this year for a company that is all about games. They appear to have greased up the ball with the... Ooh, now he's cursing a lot. He's mad. What's going on? And I think a lot of people were saying this week, right? There was a lot of bad news coming out of Sony. Amy leaves, Jack leaves, Drive Club's having trouble.
Sony
Santa Monica the week before. What's wrong? WTF is up with Sony and the train wreck.
I don't know. This is why I talked to Scott Rhodey.
Yeah.
Because I talked about a lot of things. We talked about some other stuff, too, like The Last Guardian and Gran Turismo 6. And we'll have stories on those as well soon, but... and you can see stories that we've already written about, Amy Hennig, as we mentioned, and a story that we'll discuss shortly.
I'm never giving hope. I'm never going to give up hope on The Last Guardian.
Give up hope, Megan.
No,
it's over.
Never.
It's
going to happen.
I will just give you a little tease of what Scott Rhodey told me. You shouldn't give up hope on The Last Guardian.
I'm too close to the mic. I keep touching my face to it.
You're like... So what's up with Drive Club? I don't know. There's a lot of rumors about Drive Club, and I think that one of the dominant rumors is that the rumored VR headset for PlayStation 4 somehow works with Drive Club, and that they're holding it and fixing it to work with it. Now, whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. Evolution's a totally capable studio.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with Drive Club is it's losing mind share. Gran Turismo 6 didn't do well, by Gran Turismo standards especially. And so they might want to just be giving this some space between those two games. Who knows? I mean, maybe the game's done. I don't, and they just are holding it. I don't know, but he didn't want to get in any specifics, so it's hard to say.
So do you think that this is just happenstance, that this perfect storm of bad news all came around at the same point? I don't think Jack leaving, like a lot of people were saying that Jack leaving is like this big deal of like, oh, he sees something coming. I don't think it's that at all. I think he just wants to go out on top. The Amy thing obviously was not out of the blue for Naughty Dog. I'm sure whatever's happening internally, they've known for a while. But then layoffs and stuff, I don't think that's all connected, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Some of it is probably. I think that specifically Jack leaving April 1st has probably has to do with the fiscal year.
Layoffs for a fiscal year.
Yeah, layoffs were a fiscal year thing. So, that stuff's probably connected in terms of books and bookkeeping. But, yeah, everything else is not. I mean, I think it's just people are focusing on some of the negative things, whatever. I do agree that Sony seems to have a complete lack of AAA games. I still don't believe The Order's coming out this year, so based on what I saw.
Yeah.
And based on how little we've seen so far of the game, but maybe I'm wrong on that too. I've been wrong many times. Remember when I said that PlayStation 4 would be called PlayStation and it would have a terabyte hard drive in it?
Yeah, and the Vita was set to succeed.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
I've said some bad stuff too.
Yeah.
I said I was going to lose weight. I never said that. Megan, are you worried? Do you think it's a perfect storm?
No, I think it's honestly just a timing thing. I mean, I was a little nervous when the whole thing with Sony Santa Monica went down just because I'm such a fan of the studio.
Yeah.
But I think it's just all timing. It's just unfortunate timing. So it looks like it's all going to collapse. And I'm like, no, I don't see that. I have full faith that everything's going to pan out.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff is not going to come out this year. I'm just going to make that prediction. I don't see it. It seems
I'm going to go out on a limb.
I'm going to go on a limb and tell you what you already suspect. But yeah, I think that it's all going to work out. I have faith in. So it's not like the PlayStation 4 is broken or bad, or that the studios are awful and there's this big fallout. I think all this news just accumulated in, a fortnight, and everyone's panicking. It's not their panic. Okay.
Good use of Fortnite.
Thank you.
I wish she said it's not a big fallout, but I wish a big fallout was coming to PlayStation 4.
Credits roll.
That'd be it.
Beyond.
Number 4. Speaking of Scott Rhodey, he'll also talk to me about the unfortunate layoffs at Sony Santa Monica. He said that, quote, there's not a single business on the planet where every single project that is started is a success, and that's just what happened here. So sometimes high-profile projects or studios need a reboot, and that's what's happening here, end quote. He confirmed that around 200 people still work there and that they are working on a AAA project in addition to incubating smaller projects via XDev. So
Reboot.
So that's fine. That's cool. I mean, they were always working on one game at a time until these concurrent projects, neither of which were announced, and one of them seemingly was canceled. So this seems to be going back to the status quo for them. So maybe they were just getting too big.
Back to what works.
Yeah. Back to reality.
Yeah.
Back to the roots.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Costume Quest 2 is real, and it's coming to consoles and PC in time for Halloween 2014. Double Fine is working on the game. It's unclear which consoles it will be available on. I assume PS3, PS4, Xbox One, and Xbox 360, but who the hell knows?
Yeah, I'm guessing they actually pick a horse. It's PlayStation 4 or it's PlayStation 3. I don't think it'll be both.
Well,
and I would lean towards PlayStation 4 since the conversion's so much easier without the cell processor and stuff like that.
They got that Costume Quest engine running on PS3, though.
Good point. That's a good point, I guess. That's a good point. Oh, yeah, I guess I'm thinking more in the Gone Home vein, which I'm sure you're about to talk about.
Number 6, Gone Home. The smash hit indie PC title is also coming to consoles in 2014, and again, it's unclear which consoles it will be available on.
This one I'll say PlayStation 4 only. Costume Quest, you're right, could go either way.
You could play it on Vita, though, right? I mean...
Gone Home?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Didn't he tell you that it wouldn't run on Vita?
I forget. We've done so many commentaries with Steve Gaynor. It makes sense. I mean, there's so much physics to picking things up and moving it and throwing it and moving everything around.
Right.
I think a Vita would chug doing that.
Oh, you think so? All
Yeah.
right, well, then I stand corrected.
You can play on, if it's on PS4, you can play on Remote Play.
Remote Play.
That's the answer I'm getting to every question I ask about Vita now, is it is on Vita.
Yeah.
All right.
Spari writes in, it says Beyond.
Beyond.
With the recent news of Gone Home coming to the PlayStation, he says PS4, but again, that's not confirmed. Some PlayStation platform, because I said trophies in the interview. He didn't back down. I thought I would check it out. However, I have had the ending ruined for me. Is it still worth playing even though I know the end twist?
Yes.
We're not going to ruin it here for
No.
you if you haven't seen it at home.
It's a story about Greg.
It's a story. You go into the
It's
attic
Greg's
and Greg's up
personal
there, and I've just killed everyone.
Yeah, it's a story about Greg coming home to Chicago, and
Portillo's missing.
Portillo's gone, and he's got a...
There's a lot of notes.
Yep.
I think it is, Colin. I mean, the hook to it, obviously. I tell everyone when I played it, earlier last year, the fact of just go play it without knowing anything. I mean, like I saw a bunch of people tweet about it that the game is great, but don't read reviews, just go play it. And that's how I wanted it experienced. I still think it's worthy to go do that and see how the narrative comes together and how they tell the story and do all these different things.
Yeah, by the end, you kind of want to go back and see what you missed anyway, so...
Yeah, I'm more... Yeah, that's the thing. I haven't played it since my first playthrough because I loved that so much and put it away. So to come back and then trophy whore the hell out of this thing and do whatever I have to do to
I
get
wonder
everything.
what the trophies will be. No, I agree. I didn't see where the game was going until the last 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Really. So,
It sucks if you know the twist, but it's still a fun game to play.
yeah, I think
Interesting.
it changes. It feels like a lot different than it ends up being.
Yeah.
If it ends up being, I think, more lighthearted than... It's a serious subject, but like it feels like a horror game for the first hour.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I thought,
totally,
too. I thought
totally.
I kept waiting for a ghost to pop out and, like, start shooting, or not shooting.
Oh my
That would be
God!
awesome.
It's Ghost Hitler. But yeah, that was the same thing too. It's scary for a long time.
Number 7.
Number 7.
On an updated version of Gaikai's site, pricing has been revealed for PlayStation Now rentals. While the art that shows the pricing may just be a mock-up. The art shows Uncharted 3 costing $4.99 to rent and Far Cry 3 costing $5.99 to rent. We're still waiting to hear from Sony about firm pricing plans for Now, which is slated to launch this summer.
Woo! What do you think of those prices?
That's good. That's a good price.
How long do you think you get rented for?
I don't know.
Ever and ever?
No.
Hours?
Probably a day or 2 days, 3 days, a weekend, 4 days, 5 days, somewhere in there.
Okay, that's a lot of days to
Yeah.
throw around. Yeah. Megan, would you pay $5 to rent Uncharted?
Well, I could, but I have access to our games library, so I just borrow
Oh,
the
you're one of
games
these.
library. I
You're
know,
the
I have
worst.
access to the games library, so editors have to go through me and my boss, Mark Nix, if they want any games. It's a lot of power I get to wield.
It's true. What do you think of the pricing structure here, though? If you're on the outside, you're a normie, as we call them.
Yeah,
You're working at games
what you call
database
us.
at McDonald's, and you're chronicling how many French fries are in the back,
exactly.
and updating French fry objects.
Exactly. Tasty. Very tasty objects. Best objects ever. I think it's good. It's just that I've gotten so much free stuff on PSN, and there are all these great sales that happen and stuff like that. So I'm like, it's not bad. It's good, but it's like you have so many opportunities, especially if like PlayStation Plus, to get these things for free or on
Sure.
sale, or they come up, every once in a while.
Right.
It's like, well, if you want to play them now, it's good. It's a good deal. if you want to wait, you'd possibly get an even better deal.
Yeah, I guess the hook, right, is the fact that if you only have the PlayStation 4, if you were an Xbox last generation, now you have this PlayStation 4 Vita, right? Here's your chance to play Uncharted 3 or whatever. In an easy way to do it without having to go borrow your buddy's PS3. I think that's worth the $5.
Yeah, sure. We'll see how it runs. Number 8. Infamous Second Son, which launches exclusively on PS4 worldwide on March 21st, is getting DLC. What the DLC is, how many DLC packs will be available, and when gamers can expect the DLC remains to be seen.
You get a funny hat.
I hope so. I think there's like a jacket you can get or
lots of jackets in there.
But this is like quest-based DLC, so that'll be cool.
Is it story or is it just quests?
Well, like story, like campaign-based.
Okay.
As opposed to, well, there's no multiplayer, so it couldn't be that. Number 9.
Thank God.
Yeah,
Many congratulations to Namco Bandai, which confirmed that it has shipped 1.1 million copies of Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch around the world, officially making it a hit for the publisher, as well as developer Level 5. We'll keep our fingers crossed for a proper sequel. Yes.
Proper sequel.
You could do a sequel for that game.
Sure. The dad dies now.
Sure.
Drippy dies.
Drippy dies.
It happened. The mom dies in the first 4 seconds of the game.
I gotta tell this story. So if you know me, you know the story, but I'm always careful with spoilers because back in the day when Final Fantasy VII first came out, 2 hours out from the big event, my best friend spoiled it for me, and I still haven't forgiven her for that. So I'm always careful with spoilers because I still remember the bitterness of just like, I can't believe you spoiled
I think if there's
that.
something that happens in the beginning of a game, you're allowed to spoil it.
I guess.
If it's one of those things if you're going to turn it on, right?
Sure,
and that,
but
that pretty much happens.
I'm just telling you.
It's the catalyst for the event.
Yeah, exactly.
You
But
never
it's
played
it's
Ni no
muscle
Kuni?
memory. No, I did.
Oh,
I liked
okay.
it. I
No,
liked it a
she's
lot.
just trying to protect everybody who
I'm
hasn't.
trying to protect people, Colin.
I'm not. You should be playing Ni no Kuni. You should have played it already.
That's true.
What's wrong with you?
The Chimera
The Chimera.
are aliens,
Yeah.
kind of, but not really. They infect
In
humans.
Resistance-
We've never seen them.
The Chimera are the bad guys, but they're really not the Chimera.
Right. Never really
And
seen
we'll
a Chimera.
never ever see them because the series was canceled.
To swing it back around to Infamous, like I was playing that and I think it was Mass Effect 2 on the PlayStation 3 at the same time, and they both
Yeah.
have Reapers in it, which I thought was hilarious
Oh, yeah.
for some reason.
Yeah. Reapers were the hotness back then.
Yeah, that was like the big
2007.
trend.
Whew. Ever loved them Reapers.
Number 10.
You're no fun anymore.
A bunch of new games for PlayStation ecosystem have been revealed. Beat 'em Up Foul Play is coming to both PlayStation 4 and PS Vita, and I love the name of that because it all takes place on a stage, hence the name Foul Play.
Are they all chickens?
What?
Are they all chickens?
No.
Get it foul?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not a W. Yeah.
Colin, you're grumpy.
I know. An updated version of Guacamelee called Super Turbo Championship Edition is coming to PS4 as well as Xbox One, Xbox 360, and Wii U. Can't wait. Guacamelee fucking rocks.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Pixel Junk Shooter is being ported to both PS4 and Vita. Should do well on Vita, I suspect. And Roguelike Galaxy, already revealed for PS4, is coming to Vita as well. In addition, long ago announced Vita RPG Destiny of Spirits has a release date. It'll launch in North America on March 25th. I am super dubious of that game. So we'll
Dubious?
see. Yeah.
Okay. Why?
Because it's location based, and most Vitas in the wild don't have 3G, and then you have to play it at home, but you don't want to play it. I just don't understand how it's going to work.
Gotcha.
And I played it at E3 last year, and I wasn't all that impressed with it. So we'll see.
Off your little list there, you know what I'm excited about?
What's that?
Pixel Junk Shooter.
Really?
Those were games I didn't get into on the PlayStation 3 as much as I thought I would. I play them at events, and I was like, oh, this is cool. But when I'd come home, I'd want something deeper on the PlayStation big screen. So having them on Vita seems like a perfect no-brainer. That'll be awesome. Go collect those little astronauts everywhere. Get them away from the lava.
Yeah, Shooter's a good shooter. Those are probably the best Pixel Junk games. Maybe
Better
like we
than
said, except
Monsters.
Yeah, Monsters was pretty good.
Yeah.
I like Pixel Junk Eden personally.
You can leave. We're not going to have this
All right.
eating crap in here. You're going to get in here and start talking about 4 a.m. soon.
Oh God, remember that?
Yeah.
What the hell was the point of that game?
Remember Racers? Pixel Junk Racers?
Yeah,
Was it?
and then they did another one.
Did they?
Second lap.
God, I remember how much Clint hated that when he reviewed it back in the day.
But Pixel Junk 4am was like, I guess, an interesting idea, but like, why? Why?
I
Why?
liked Eden because it was chill. Like when I was super stressed, I'd put that game in and just chill out.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I guess I can see that.
Yeah.
I'll give
I'm
it
not
to
saying it's a great game. Like let's give it a 10 out of 10. But it's a masterpiece.
That's it. That's all I have.
Then I think it's
Greg.
time we tip our hats and go to the graveyard for the Andrew Goldfarb Memorial list of upcoming PlayStation software on all 3 platforms by the IGN editors.
Yes, very good.
Dun,
Very good.
dun, 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 dun,
Is the Undertaking
dun,
gonna burst through the
dun, dun.
wall?
I hope so. My Andrew Goldfarb.
What's that guy's name? That
Paul
talks like
Bear.
that? Paul Bear. All right. I ask you that like every other week
I know,
for the
awesome.
past 7 years. On PlayStation 3, Atelier, Escha, and Logi, Alchemist of the Dusk Sky comes out both digitally and at retail.
What the fuck is that game?
It's the new Atelier.
Why did it?
RPG.
Why do the titles have to be so complicated?
I don't know, but those games do pretty well.
Japan. If the question's Japan, the answer's Japan.
Dark Souls Tool.
Ooh, Freudian slip.
What's the Freudian slip about Dark Souls Tool?
You think it's a game for tools?
Yeah, Dark Souls Tool comes to digital. No, I just don't care for those games. But I'm sure Dark Souls 2 is going to be very good for everyone that
9.0
likes Dark Souls.
IGN from Marty, huge fan of Dark Souls and Demon Souls.
Digital and a retail. See, I still think Dark Souls would benefit from being a more arcadey game. You know, everyone's like, "Oh, you don't." This is my favorite is when people are like, "Oh, you don't like hard games or you're bad at games." Like, come watch me play Mega Man sometime.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I've played all of them a little bit. The Demon Souls, the Dark Souls.
You didn't like them?
Yeah,
I
they
played-
just don't.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not a fantasy guy to begin with, right? So when it's just like you're kind of like medieval fighting monsters, I'm already like, I don't really care this much.
Right.
And then you get in there and they're like, there's no story. Like I play games for story usually, so it's just like, I'm gone.
You don't like the atmosphere or anything?
No,
or-
I mean, I like the atmosphere. I respect it. I respect the hell out of those games.
Right.
Love the fact that people are so into them.
Mm-hmm.
Today, Vince and Brian were having a conversation in another language. But it's just like when I talk about DC Universe or Titanfall, right?
Right.
Like you're talking about all these crap that nobody else understands if you don't play those
They
games.
talk about Dota like that. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I know,
It's
they-
a totally different language.
Yeah, they do that in like a science class.
Still don't even really know what that is. By the way,
They got lanes and jungles.
Oh, actually, I watched a Dota. It was I think when they were streaming it one day, maybe a couple months ago. I watched it.
Yeah.
and I'm like, yep, can't do it.
Yeah.
And just teach
Incomprehensible.
his own. Yeah, Dark Souls. I was the same way. I played Demon Souls when it came out after Bishop reviewed it.
Yeah.
and then didn't really like it that much. I played Dark Souls and just didn't really like it that much. I like what they're doing. I like what they're trying to do, and I like fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, so that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. It's just I just don't understand why it is so stiff and rigid. You know, games don't have to feel like that anymore. Like I always say, like Resident Evil was so good back in the day because you couldn't play it. You know, like
Yeah,
so
you
it
had
made
those
it-
tank controllers,
Yeah,
like,
and it made
ugh.
it scary. Like you couldn't. But like in a game like this, like I feel like if it felt more arcadey and you had the difficulty on top of good gameplay, which I don't feel those games have. In my 10,
I'd have to disagree. You and I part ways right there.
What?
I think that with Demon Souls and Dark Souls, it has to get to the point where you click. It feels rigid at first. It feels, I see where you're coming from with the whole arcadey thing, but that's how I felt at Demon Souls at first and Dark Souls. But once you get past a certain level, it clicks. And it's not rigid anymore. You start to learn the rules. It's all about a learning process. It's a really tough learning curve, but once you learn it, it really comes together, which is why they're so popular. I think you have to be patient with it. Like
Sure.
It's frustrating because it's like, oh, I keep dying and this really sucks. But then when you sort of get the rules of the world, it really comes together. So I don't know if it would benefit from being arcadey. I think
it would fundamentally change what it is.
It would
right?
fundamentally
And
change
that's
what
what
it
I'm
is.
always with me, right? When I hit the wall of like, okay, I'm trying again, and I understand what I'm doing, and it's like a puzzle, right? How do I
Right.
beat this guy? How do I get around him? But then even once I'm past him, and it's just like now for me, there's no carrot in front of me to do it again. You know what I mean? That's my
Right.
thing with it, right? So eventually, like, I get it. I know it's going to go on like this for 60 hours.
You're
I
good.
understand. I'm good. You know what I mean? Because I'm not that patient, right? Like I'm waiting
understand.
for the next cutscene or something.
You guys aren't alone.
Waiting for Cole to pop up.
Yeah, it's just one of those games that it's the game that I most feel like I should like,
Yeah.
but don't. And I think a lot of people say that to me all the time. Like, you like grueling old school games and stuff, and I'm like, but those games were predicated on that kind of design in a more clever way, in my opinion. Like the way Castlevania 3 is hard is a much more clever way than the way Demon Souls was hard for me. Demon Souls is hard and like I say, like the stiffness of the game makes it hard. And if you made it in a more arcadey and fluid gameplay design, I guess, that you can make it harder in different ways to have enemies, be bulkier or faster with you and all those kinds of things. At least make it... I wanted to feel like I had more control. And that's why when I played Dark Souls, I was excited because I was like, well, maybe they fixed some of this stuff. But obviously they didn't because that's not what people liked in
Right.
the first one. So why would you do that?
Yeah, it's like Monster Hunter when I'm always like, I want lock on, and everybody yells at me for wanting lock on. It's like there's
That's
people
not
who
what
like
it
that
is.
game
Yeah.
for a reason and like it in
Yeah, more power
me
to you.
coming in and being like, I want lock on or
But
arcadey.
isn't it fair to say that some of those old school games are hard because they're actually kind of broken? I'm not saying the ones you specifically mentioned, Colin,
Right.
but I've just when you go back and you play some of these games, you're like, oh man, this is just straight up broken.
There's
Yeah.
logic leaps and stuff that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, where it's just like you just learned as a kid how to work around it, as opposed, and it was hard, you thought, oh, it's because I'm bad at it, as opposed to, well, yeah, no, this jump thing.
Like Battletoads.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, Battletoads is borderline impossible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, some games from back then, like, difficulty is just different. It's what you're looking for. Like, Demon's Souls and Dark Souls is a game that I could very easily beat if I wanted to sit there and actually spend the time to do that. I guess the difference is, like, when you play, like, Zelda 2 on NES, which is considered, like, a hard game and also, like, a totally obtuse game, you don't have to dedicate that much time to it. You know, like, and you kind of get over humps as you go. And there's a feeling of reward there. Now, people find this like deep feeling of reward in Dark Souls by putting in that time, but I just don't have the want to spend that kind of time with that game. You know, as opposed to spending that kind of time with like Fallout, which is different because at least you're doing something that to me feels a little bit more rewarding.
And see, that's where I'm back with like me, right? With like Fallout, it's like, oh, this is a really interesting quest. I want to see what my decision will do here, there, there. Where in like. It's like gameplay versus story, right? Like Demon's Souls, Dark Souls are all gameplay, and that's what it is, and that's awesome that people connect with it that way. I want a little bit of frosting on that cake.
All right, there's nothing wrong with
that.
I
love my cakes frosted.
I keep thinking about going back again, but to Demon's Souls specifically, so I can start from the beginning. But
you gonna platinum it a million times like Jim?
It's awesome.
No, it's just there's just too many. There's just too many other games to play.
That's the problem. And that's the thing when we talk about patience, right? Like especially with the privilege we have of being able to play everything and being expected to know everything, right? Like. When I get to that wall where I'm like, I'm not having super fun with this, like most people go through that when they've bought a game, right? And then they find the next thing that keeps them going. Whereas for us, it's like, well, 30 other games need to be played, and I need to know about them.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I envision a Dark Souls that I would enjoy is something more like Ninja Gaiden or Gaiden, depending on how you want to say it.
Sure.
But not the original. The original ones on NES are obviously the best ones, but the way they reimagined it on Xbox, where it was really hard but also played well.
Yeah.
Like I guess that's like what I want. I mean, that's like the perfect synthesis, right? Like Ninja Gaiden was fucking hard. Like those games are hard as shit.
Yeah.
But you feel like you have some modicum of control immediately. And that's what I liked about it. Or God of War is kind of a similar way. God of War is not very hard unless you play it on the hardest difficulty, but you have like this amazing fluidity in what you're doing that gives you power.
Yeah.
And that's kind of more what I'm looking for. But these are very different games. I do know that Dark Souls is going to be big. And I assume that this will just continue to go.
You think there'll be a Dark Souls 3?
Probably.
My God.
Also, back to the list. Vessel, this game Vessel, I don't know what it is, comes out digitally on PlayStation 3. On PS4, Putty Squad, which is also already available digitally, I think, is now available at retail, according to the PlayStation blog.
Okay.
And Towerfall Ascension, which is fucking awesome, is available digitally.
Now, Towerfall is that Ouya game, right?
Yeah, it's the Ouya game, so no one played it. Now it's on PlayStation 4. It's considered Ouya's best game.
Yeah.
And it's on PS4. I started messing around with it actually last night, and I played it like a month or so ago at an event, and it's just so good. It's so good. It's so simple in its premise yet.
Explain the premise to everyone.
You are on there's like different modes, but basically it's like a static screen with like, it reminds me a lot of like old NES games like Kid Icarus or something, where it's like there are platforms and enemies in this game will spawn and you fight them and kill them whenever you have like a certain amount of lives. So basically it's like an arena that you fight, but the meat of the game is like a local multiplayer thing where you play against your friends and you each have like 3 arrows and you have to like kill each other or jump on each other.
Gotcha.
It's just a silly little super pixelated but totally fun and gratifying game.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm down with it. And on Vita, Fort Defense North Menace comes out, which is a digital only game. And
it's Menace from the North.
Yeah, it's apparently it looks like a tower defense game.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Well, those games sound all right, but Megan,
what's up?
I'm excited for Infamous Second Son. Yeah. I almost Freudian slipped that one too. The other day, Chris Zimmerman came by. He's a co-founder of Sucker Punch. He's been working on this Infamous Second Son, and he talked to Colin and I about it. Colin.
Yes.
You want me to insert that interview right here?
Yeah, please do.
Here I go.
Beyond.
What's up, everybody? Yes, we are here with the one and only Chris Zimmerman. There's only two
guys.
of us. There's the third clap. There's the third.
I appreciate it.
You're here to talk about Infamous Second Son.
That's right.
I don't know if you know this. Colin and I are a bit of Infamous fans.
I've heard.
Okay,
heard
good.
Rumors.
I don't know
I've
if you're
heard rumors that you guys are Infamous fans.
But what I want to do is start with who are you and what do you do at Sucker Punch?
Well, I'm Chris Zimmerman. I'm one of the co-founders of Sucker Punch.
That's a big deal.
Well,
you're royalty.
Yeah. Nah. It just means I'm old, is really what it means. So we started Sucker Punch in 1997, so I've been doing this now for coming up on 17 years.
What brings you back?
putting smiles on people's faces.
Yeah, and all that sweet
absolutely.
Sly Cooper money, I bet.
Yeah, right.
Colin,
Yes,
you set all this up.
I did.
I'm very happy you did.
Are
'Cause
you?
I'm very happy about
Good,
Second
good.
Son.
Oh, me too. I'm so excited about it.
What questions do you have for Chris?
I have a lot. Well, so here's the thing.
Here we go.
We'll
Here's
lift,
the
we'll
thing.
lift the veil, the curtain, as it were. I was just at Sucker Punch. I just saw Chris a few days ago for the history of Sucker Punch,
You threw all my material.
which I'm going to be writing soon.
Yeah.
Soon, like in the next month or two.
Will it start in 1997?
It will start in 1997. It'll start even before
I was gonna say,
1997
right? All right.
because, of course, Chris and his friends all worked at Microsoft. And so
Ooh, I've heard
we're gonna
of
start
them.
from there and work our way forward. But I guess I'm telling you this because a lot of the questions I feel bad because a lot of the questions I had already asked. I talked to Chris this morning. I'm like, you're gonna have to answer the same questions on Beyond and then on the live stream
And then on
Up at Noon.
Up
And
at
the
Noon will be
questions
more
I asked
fun.
last
Don't
week.
worry. I'll curse a lot and kick my feet around.
Excellent.
Great.
But one of the things that I saw that the readers were tweeting us today because we tweeted out saying that Mr. Zimmerman's going to be here and do you have any questions for him? One of the questions I thought was interesting that we were getting a lot is pertaining to Vita, not a Vita Infamous game, but how remote play works for Infamous. Mm-hmm. And so, can you talk a little bit about? Did you guys? Sure. Is that something that's even in the pipeline when you're making the game, or is this something you kind of worry about later?
I kind of worried about it later. You have to think about it a little bit, obviously, because the controls are slightly different. They've done some clever things in the way they made remote play work, so that it's not so hard from the standpoint of a game developer like us. In fact, it was kind of magical. We had the game running, and then finally remote play worked well enough for us to give it a try, and it basically worked out of the box. We could just plug it in and play remote. It's really cool, actually. If you've got a Vita, it's super cool to be able to. I mean, it works. I mean, just you're like, well, is it going to be laggy? Is it going to be the same experience? And it is. It's phenomenal, actually, how close it is to just sitting in front of the TV and playing on the PS4.
Did you guys create a special interface for Vita or whatever? I know that Assassin's Creed 4 did that, and a lot of people really enjoyed that. But some games just parlay over to Vita without any upgrades. So is there like a special button map or something like that?
Yeah, they're just button maps. Figuring out how what does it mean because the buttons are a little bit different on the Vita. So you just have to figure out what goes where. So
okay, Gregory.
Yeah.
What do you have to ask?
Oh my gosh! So, at what point are you going to drop the act and just say that Cole's back in this game? He's got to be. There was a lightning, but you said the good ending's the canon ending. There's a lightning bolt, looks like a 3. I already know. You can just tell me that at the end of the game, Delson's going to come around a corner and Cole.
I have nothing to say.
Yeah.
But what about Zeke?
Greg,
where's
do you
Zeke?
want Cole back?
I want a cameo. I don't want to fight him. I hope the overall enemy isn't Kessler. But then I'm not even against that so much because I'm sure it'd be cool. Like, I'm just excited to play it. Here's the thing about it is you guys have done a good job this time around with not showing me jack shit. I don't know what's happening in this game.
I
know 2 powers.
Strategy. It was called the Greg Miller strategy.
If you
called
show
it Plan
Greg Miller,
Greg.
you show Greg very little. He can't bitch about it and make you change it.
No, actually, we kind of felt like. On Infamous 2, we told people too much. We were so excited about all the stuff we managed to get in the game.
Yeah.
We wanted to tell everybody about it. And by the time the game came out, there weren't any secrets. You played through the game and it was like, well, yeah, this is great, but I've seen it before. This is really fun, but I kind of expected it to be fun. And we really wanted you and Colin and everybody to have this experience of experiencing something for the first time, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I remember playing Uncharted 2, right? And there's this point where suddenly you get to play as Boy Drake, and that was super. I had no idea that was coming. And so when it fades up and there's this boy there, I'm like, oh wait, oh no way, I get to be Boy Drake. This is super cool. And it was cool because it was a surprise. I mean, it was cool on its own, but it was cool because it was a surprise. And we wanted to make sure that people had that, with Second Son, that there was stuff that they had no idea was coming. So,
I like that.
Yeah, I feel like compared to Infamous 2, you're exactly right in the sense that we've seen so little. Like that makes me more excited to play it. When I was at Sucker Punch and I played the portion we'll show in the live stream today, I almost wanted to not play. And I was like, I played it for like 10 minutes. I don't really want to. Like we're so close now. Like why ruin it now?
Yeah.
But. The truth be told, it's out of context. You have no idea what's going on in the story. It's just fun to like play, and what I really like about it, and I think it was intentional for you guys, is it feels like Infamous. Like it just all came back to me. Mm-hmm. Like it just the way it feels,
the sense of fluidity and flow. That which is what we really try to do, right? We want to make it feel like you're just flowing through the city, right? That you think it and then you go do it.
We say that, but I mean, how easy is that to pull
Oh,
off?
it's a pain, man. It's super hard.
Because that's the one thing everybody I talk to about the original Infamous games, right? They're like, well, I didn't like Trisha, I didn't like the story, but like the game was fun to play, right?
Yeah. And you kind of see that when it's kind of the core of our message. You see the gameplay spot that we have out on the internets now, and the tagline's "Enjoy Your Power," because it's really kind of where we started on Second Son. We really wanted to make it about the joy of having superpowers, right? That you really wanted to feel like Delsin was just having a great time, and that vicariously through him you had a great time.
Right.
So everything really kind of revolves around that sort of idea of being a superhero is awesome.
So I've talked to you guys obviously a lot about this game and other games in general, and you talk about the fact that like at E3 when Billy shows me the demo and I'm geeking out to him about how great it looks. I talked about how that great moment in that E3 reveal where Delsin pops up in the air, right, smiles at the camera and then comes and smashes. And he says, that was the big problem with Cole, right? That Cole wasn't happy to be a superpowered being, right? He didn't know what he was doing.
Super grumpy.
But was that one of those things that's like hindsight's 2020 when you were making
absolutely.
the game? Okay.
Yeah, we you don't know, right, when you start making the game, right? You don't know how it's going to turn out. So you have an idea of who the characters are and why they are the way they are, right? So with Cole in the first game, we really did start with the idea that Cole woke up, or you woke up in the morning and you had superpowers, and how would you react to it, right?
Yeah.
And Cole definitely feels the burden of this, right? That he didn't ask for this, and that if you remember the beginning of Infamous, there's this huge disaster that happens because of him. So from the very beginning, from the time you press start, you've destroyed half a city, and that burden weighs on him. And it kind of becomes discordant with what you want as a player. You really want to be a superhero, and you want it to be fun, right? You don't really want to have somebody complaining about what a burden it is to have all this awesome power, right?
Yeah.
And so we were able to tweak that a little bit with Infamous 2, where he's a little bit less grumpy, a little bit more enjoying things.
He had a short sleeve shirt. That was the real problem. Is he was really hot jumping around in that jacket. You had him in a leather coat.
That's right.
What were you
He
thinking?
wasn't showing off his tattoos. So, that, by the way, is one of the things that's where you don't really realize the awesome power you have until you see someone with a selfie of their Cole McGrath tattoo, where they just copied your tattoo from the game. You're like, wow, I didn't realize what awesome power I had here at my fingertips. So,
I mean, does that? I have to imagine making a game's got to be a weird experience, right? Colin and I talk about this all the time. Like, we put out so much video content. Granted, there's nothing to it. We're just talking, right? And people are like, oh, it's great, or that sucks, and whatever. And we get used to it, right? But then you guys put it out, and whether the reaction is, dear sucker punch, I hate you so much, or if it's like they get a tattoo, like when you're making a game, is it easy to understand the impacts you're going to have, or that you could
No, it's hard because you kind of go dark for a long time, right? We really haven't talked to the public about things since Festival of Blood came out, and so now it's been 2.5 years almost, and we've been working that whole time on something without really being entirely sure how people are going to react to it.
Yeah.
So it's super gratifying to put out what you've been working on so hard and see people have a positive reaction to it. But at the same time, we really do care about our fans. That's who we make the games for. And it's important to us that the people that are invested, like you guys are, in Infamous, the idea of Infamous, that we meet people's expectations. And so there's a lot of pressure. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to meet those expectations, to make sure that the people that have enjoyed Infamous games in the past really enjoy Second Son. So, we're biting our fingernails a little bit right now. We've seen people play it, right? We've done focus tests. We've had people get their hands on it at various press events. So we know people are liking it. But until it's actually out there and we really let people see the whole thing and let them react to the whole experience, you just never know how it's going to actually work out. So,
you talk about expectations. Is it different right now, launching Second Son? Because, I mean, you are in a completely different place. I ask long-winded questions. But the story I always had, right, is that when I first really got to hang out with Nate at one of the pre-release parties, and I was talking to him, I was like, Infamous was about to come out, the original, and I was like, in an interview we were talking, and he said something about being basically like, we're kind of like Naughty Dog's little brother, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the fact that like Uncharted multiplayer beta for the first time was included with Infamous 1, right?
Yeah.
And so that said, that's always seemed like they were the pace car. Naughty Dog was out front, right? Now on the PS4, it's you, right? And like this is the game that people are buying PlayStations for and like waiting for.
Yeah, it's it's weird, actually, right? Because we kind of snuck up on people with Infamous 1. People thought of us as a company that did the Sly Cooper games.
Yeah.
They didn't expect anything like Infamous from us. And so people were surprised by it. And this time we're not sneaking up on anybody, right? We've been out front and center with the whole PS4 launch stuff as one of the titles that really was, built from the start for the PlayStation 4 and really tries to leverage it as much as possible. So yeah, it adds an extra level of kind of pressure to the whole thing. That people's expectations are really pretty high. I mean, it's been fun. A lot of it's been fun, right? When we'll do some captures, and there'll be NeoGAF threads about the captures, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is clearly fake. This isn't real. This is all simulated gameplay, right?"
Yeah.
And so we're just cackling back at Sucker Punch, saying, "No, actually, that's all real. That's 30 frames a second, baby." So that's been fun. That's been fun. And the truth is that the game is spectacular. So when it's out, I'm super confident that people are going to look at it. Because I do, right? I wander around the studio, and I'm the development director. I'm actually kind of supposed to know how this stuff works.
Yeah.
And I look around and I see something in the game, and I'm like, wait a second. How are we doing that?
Right.
I'll be like running down the street, and I'll see like reflections in the puddles of stuff, and I'll be like, wait a second, that's not even on the screen. Where's that coming from? How is that happening?
When I got that tour at PAX, and we got to walk around, and we got like a step-by-step, station-by-station tour, and we got to the one where, they were showing how like that, I don't even know what they call it, but that silver ball and how it creates reflections in the world. I took that screenshot and Instagrammed it, and with my iPhone, I took a picture of a TV screen and then put a filter on it, and people were flipping out that was real. And like to have that on your 16-inch TV screen is going to be crazy. To see what that looks like.
It's super cool. I mean, you sometimes you just have to stop and look, and because when you're playing the game, you're focusing on the game, right? You're in the moment.
Yeah.
You're doing all this cool, superpower stuff. You're seeing all this stuff happen, and it's only when you kind of stop and just look, and you're like, wow, this is a video game, right?
Yeah.
It can look like this. It can sound like this. It can play like this. It's cool. You lose track of that while you're playing the game. You're just focusing on having fun. It's only when you stop and look at it, or when you wander past someone's desk, for me, that you're just kind of like bowled over that. Not only that it's possible, but for me, as one of the guys who worked on it, that we did it.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
It's funny because when I played last week, I hadn't played it since E3. When we saw it at Santa Monica, I let Vince play so he can get his hands on. We can get a different opinion.
You gave him a breadcrumb.
Yeah, I gave him a breadcrumb. Here you go,
from the
buddy.
King's plate.
Yeah, just wiped it on the floor, and he eagerly went and picked it up. And what I was playing, and what I was so blown away about, what came to my mind was that it's the same feeling I felt with Infamous, and especially Infamous 2, which is that I don't even really want to play the story right this minute. I don't want to the marker's there on the HUD. I know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm just walking around and looking and panning the camera and the same kind of stuff. But the wonder that I was filled with, even though Ken's standing there, I know he's going to kill me if I don't start playing the game soon. So I'm just like, I'm running,
His
towards
papers rolled up. He's his hand. Call man. Come on.
But and I remember remarking to him at one point, I don't even know where we are in the game. Our readers will see it during the live stream. I was on top of a building, and there's just this cityscape in the far, and in the background, like way far away. And I'm like, can I go there? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, Jesus Christ, how big is this place?
Yeah, the world.
So how big is Seattle compared to Empire City or New Marais?
It's a little bit bigger. That wasn't our, the thing about the game design and the environment design is you want to make sure that for the Infamous games, it's about action, right? It's not about long journeys. You're not going to have to drive through the desert to get to our version of Las Vegas. You're just there. And so the size of our city gets determined really by how long we want it to take to get from one end to the other. And so that's, maybe 50% bigger in this game. So it's bigger, but it's not radically bigger. That wasn't our focus. It ends up, you kind of want to know the place, right? And you want to be able to move around it. You want to be able to get from one side to the other. We want you to focus on the action, not on navigation, or not on long distance navigation.
For me, when we were doing the demo and I'm not even playing it, but just seeing it, you guys pulled the map out, and you're like, oh yeah, you can go to that island eventually, but this is, Seattle, this is where it's happening. What I want to do is go do all the different parts. You guys, from what I understand, did a lot to make sure every district of the city feels different. I want to go to the woods and see what that's like, but then I want to run and obviously climb the Space Needle.
Yeah, it's we did, and I think you're going to enjoy it. The different parts of Seattle have. Well, and for us, it's fun, right? Because it's Seattle, so it's where we are, right? We live there, and so we kind of do know what the spirit of each kind of part of Seattle is, and we can take the parts that we think are interesting and kind of toss them together into our kind of mashup of Seattle.
Speaking of Seattle, Jacob tweets at Game Over Greggy and says, "Why use a real-world city like Seattle? What kind of different challenges did this make for you and your team?"
Well, it's our hometown, right? So that was fun for us.
So you're lazy. You just want to, I need reference photos.
Exactly.
Go out to get drinks. I don't know.
It's true, actually. We can just walk outside the office and take pictures of buildings and have some good reference for it. So it actually is convenient. We thought that the hardware had gotten to the point where we could say we were doing a real city and actually pull it off.
Yeah.
Is the truth. When we were doing our version of New York for Infamous 1, if we'd called it New York, people's expectations are different, than if we call it Empire City. And we were closer with Infamous 2. It's a little bit more New Orleans-y than Empire City is New York-y. But we felt like with Second Son, we actually could pull it off. We could actually make the Space Needle and actually have you believe it was the Space Needle.
Yeah.
And, for Seattle in particular, in the past, we just haven't had enough horsepower to build the technology to do rain and clouds and overcast and reflections and all the other things that you really have to have if you're going to say the game's in Seattle.
Now, did you know from the beginning when you guys picked Seattle that you wanted to go and get local businesses in the game? Because I think this is the coolest thing.
We did, yeah. We walked around. Actually, the first one we got, believe it or not, was the Space Needle.
Really?
Yeah, because somebody owns it, right?
Yeah.
So
Colin, I think?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're welcome.
So we appreciate it. We got Space Needle first because we were like, we can't really call it the Space Needle, or we can't call it Seattle unless it has the Space Needle. It's one of the few things that people can reliably say goes along with Seattle. And we don't want to have like the Galaxy Tower or whatever.
Sure.
So that was first, and they were surprisingly amenable.
Really?
The people that run the Space Needle were like, yeah, sure. There are a couple things you're not allowed to do, but
you can't knock it down. I'm sure.
Can't knock it down. Actually, that's actually not it.
Really?
We could actually have knocked it down. We actually asked about that.
Okay, so then my next guess would be like nobody can die from it or something. You can't toss anybody out of it.
We can't let you jump off the top.
Gotcha.
And then the next thing actually was the monorail. Seattle has monorail, and the ferries are actually run by the same people. So we got that next, and then we started diving into the local businesses, especially the ones that that are part of our picture of Seattle. Pink Elephant Car Wash is the cool one.
Who's planning to sell the game? I heard.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, we're gonna be able to buy the game with the Pink Elephant Car Wash.
Get your car washed and get a game.
Exactly,
Awesome.
That's so cool. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's on Denny Stewart, one of the city streets in downtown Seattle. So
was this a really expensive undertaking? I'm not looking for a figure here. Okay, good.
No, it was just it wasn't about money really. It was about finding people that kind of got it. And not everybody did, right? There are some businesses that we would have loved to have in the game, so I'm not allowed to name names, where it just didn't work out. People didn't quite get why it was going to be fun to have their game or have their business in the game.
Kyle tweets at Game Over Greggy and at IGN and says, Chris, is this the open world game that finally tells a powerful narrative? So he's giving you the benefit of the doubt, but then kind of insulting your former games too.
Narrative's hard for us to predict, right? You have to let people play and see, right? And so we do test it, right? We have focus tests. We have people sit down and play, and people have really enjoyed the story. They think it's great. They really love Delsin and Reggie and the relationship between them. So there's a lot that people really react strongly to. But until it's actually out there and millions of people play it in the wild, we don't know for sure. So I certainly hope so. That's been our goal, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, you went really far this time with it's the cutscenes, right? Even just the gameplay of watching face, like I'm talking about with Delsin about to hit down. You bring in Troy and you bring in William and you put all these balls on their face and you capture it so that when they smile, you have everything. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's super cool. We didn't know how it was going to work out. We in Infamous 2 we did motion capture all the cutscenes, but all the facial stuff was animated by hand. So we had a bunch of people that were actually animating every eyebrow raise and every mouth shape. That was all done by hand. This time around, we took a more of a big tech Hollywood approach to it, and we did full performance capture. So we had. We actually had vacuum-formed plastic masks made for each of our main actors.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, and they drilled holes in known spots on them. And so every time we went into a shoot, Troy Baker had to sit still while they held a plastic mask over his face and put little dots all over his face. So, Troy, I'm sure that was
sitting still for him. Yeah, and I'm sure Travis didn't let him off the hook, probably poking him in the ribs.
Too for a while. That was probably the hard part.
That's probably really nice for you, though.
So And then we could use that. Then there were little cameras attached to their face, and we could actually take pictures of all those little dots. And through a whole bunch of technology that I won't go through, you end up being able to play that back in game. So when you're watching the cutscenes in the game, we're actually animating every single vertex, every single point on Troy's face, 30 times a second. So, and there are 20-something thousand points on his face. So it's crazy how much data gets slammed through. It's like you. I mean, it's technology, right? So it's like you're at PlayStation 4. It's awesome, it's whatever, and we say words, and you're like, well, how's that actually going to change my experience as a player, right? Well, this is an example. We couldn't do this before. We just couldn't get that much data through the system on the PlayStation 3, so we couldn't actually run it that way. And as a result, the performances are, there's a distance between you as a player and the actors. Even for the really great games, we've all played, really great PlayStation 3 games and really gotten into the story. But there's a layer of technology that was clouding things. It was like a little Vaseline, over the lens.
Yeah.
A little soft focus. And this time around, this performance capture approach, we can get rid of that. It's just more clear. You can actually see the actors act now. You look at them and you can see the emotions on their faces while you're playing the game. And since you can be a little bit more subtle. If you're like old school, go back to PlayStation 2 and you're doing a cutscene, you kind of have to have the players say what they're thinking, right? You have to say, "Now I'm mad." And you don't have to anymore. You can do it like you were writing for TV or for film. You have them say what they're thinking, and you can read their emotions on their faces. So it really helps. When you're playing the game, you just feel like you know who these characters are. Instantly by the way their faces look and move, and you can tell what they're thinking, and it's just great. It lets us tell, I think, a more nuanced story. We can have more emotional content in the narrative because you can read it. So it's great. I mean, it helps us really get into Delson's character and into his relationship with Reggie. You can really feel that brothers relationship where they're super fond of each other. They're also frustrated with each other, and you can really get that across. And it would have been hard for us to do that before.
Yeah, and I mean, that was the thing that I took away most. I think I actually turned to Ken when I was playing. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like on that big screen you guys have in your demo room or whatever, I didn't quite appreciate. It's obviously a beautiful game when you see it at E3 on the smaller TVs like this one here, but it was on that big screen and Reggie's talking to Delson, and just the skin textures. Like, I was actually what I was actually blown away most about is that they have like little birthmarks and imperfections.
Yeah.
And like I was like, my God, like, that's, and what I was so blown away about when I was thinking about it on the plane later when I was coming back from Seattle was, this is a game that's coming to PlayStation 4 4 months after PlayStation 4 launched. We think about Drake's Fortune or whatever on PS3, which was, over a year after PS3 launch, and how beautiful we thought that game was. And then you look at Uncharted 3, and Uncharted 3 makes Drake's Fortune look not good anymore, Right. And like, it seems like you guys are so far ahead of the curve now. Like, it makes me even more excited to see, once we play Second Son, we really jump into it.
Once
and then
we get through this garbage to see what really the system
can you imagine what Sucker Punch's next game is going to look like, or like what Naughty Dog's next game or Santa Monica's next game is going to look like, because they're all learning from each other and iterating and stuff. It's like, I was like blown away by that.
It's exciting. It's for people that are buying the PlayStation 4 now. I hope that Second Son gets them excited, like Colin is, about where things are going.
Right.
This is why you buy a new console, to get excited about what's going to, not just what's here now, but where it's going to be in a couple years. We certainly have a lot of ideas. So we're taking things. We're nowhere near the point where we feel like we've done everything we can do on this hardware, and getting other studios who are also making that level of effort. The Naughty Dog guys, Santa Monica, Guerrilla, the other Sony studios. We all push each other. We all look at what each other have done and said, okay, well, that's the new bar. What are we going to do to top that? It's a friendly competition, I think, between all video game developers to move the industry forward.
Speaking of new ideas, Brian Bell tweets at GameOverReggie, #Beyond.
Beyond.
Thank you. Chris, was there ever a thought going into development for PlayStation 4 that you'd pursue a new IP? Did you always know you wanted to stay in the Infamous universe?
We did. We wanted to stay and do another Infamous story. We didn't feel like we'd told all the Infamous stories we wanted to tell. We always talk about what we're going to do next. It's always open. It's one of the great things about being part of Sony. Sony has such a long-standing commitment to really unlocking the creativity of all their internal studios. So we're never instructed, oh yeah, you need to do another thing in this series because that's what we need from a business standpoint. It's really more of from a creative standpoint, what story do you guys want to tell next? Where do you guys want to go? And we were excited about doing another Infamous game. We thought that, starting again with a new character on the new platform, we were going to be able to do something special. We were super excited about it. And it's worked out, right? I mean, I think that when we were working on Second Son, we were thinking about it not in terms of being a game for the people that have played Infamous 1 and Infamous 2. I mean, clearly it's for them as well, but for everybody who was buying the new platform, everybody that had a new PS4 and was looking for something exciting to do with it. We kind of had both audiences in mind from the start. And so kind of rebooting the franchise a little bit, going to a new character, new idea of what the game is, really opened some opportunities for us where we could rethink, say, the control scheme, which is actually pretty different in the new game, so that it was simpler, so that it was more approachable to people that hadn't played the previous games in the series.
So, like, when you're talking about, rebooting in a way, was this something you came to on your own accord, or was there, like, because I find it fascinating that, right, Killzone comes out and it's not Killzone 4, you know what I mean? And you guys come out and you're not Infamous 3, and then Uncharted, whatever the hell the final name will be, but it's just Uncharted, right? Like, it seems like with the new console, there's this movement of, like, let's give people a starting off point, but I didn't know if, like, Shuhei knocked on your door one day and was like, hey, by the way, drop the numbers.
No, not so much. I think that it's more, parallel evolution, right? Mm-hmm. We're all facing the same state of the world, right? We all have the same goals in mind. And so I think a lot of people came to the same conclusion about where they wanted to go. You wanted to rethink things a little bit to make it fresh. Because you don't want someone who bought the PlayStation 4 to say, well, I didn't play Infamous 1. I have no idea why. Everyone should, right? So, but apparently there are people who haven't. And so I don't want to play Second Son, and we didn't want anybody to think that. We wanted to build a game for that person that was coming to the Infamous franchise fresh, that had never played one of the games before. The other studios are, a lot of them came to the same conclusion.
One of the things I'm most curious about, because we talk about this kind of autonomy with all of the first parties, I hear this from everyone I talk to. Yeah. With the DualShock 4 specifically, you guys actually use the touchpad in the middle, and I think you use it somewhat cleverly, to absorb powers, neon or smoke, for instance. Was there any pressure from Sony to utilize that, or is that something that just kind of seemed obvious to you in a sort of iteration from DualShock 3?
It was exciting for us. We didn't get pressure to use the pad. We were super excited about the new controller. We talked about how excited we were, how awesome it is, and that was the part of it that we got most excited about, was the touchpad and what could we do with it. How could we make the game better? How could we make the player's experience better using the touchpad? We focused on the times when we kind of wanted to take you out of the flow of action. Usually when you're playing the game, we want you to forget about the controller, right? We want it to just be like it doesn't exist, that you just think about doing something and then Delsin does it. The touchpad's a little bit different for us. We wanted you to actually think about using the touchpad. So we use it in Second Son in the times where you're not really using it during combat. You're not using it when you're under a lot of pressure. You're using it when we want you to draw your attention to Delsin doing something out of the ordinary. Like drawing power is pretty, banal, but that's actually kind of how we thought about it. There's some other stuff in the game we just haven't shown yet that's a little bit more creative. I think we showed the finger scanner.
Yeah, you've done finger scanner, drawing the smoke out, and then
I'm so glad you're here to
opening
tell me
doors.
What
Don't worry,
told people.
I'm Junior Sucker Punch PR. I know exactly what boundaries you can talk about. But no, I remember when I saw it and I came back, and the finger scanner is the one I bitched about on camera. But the tearing, swiping out to tear open doors. At first, I was like, "That's so dumb, Yeti," and then I was like, "But maybe it's just years and years of tapping X, and that's not much better. I hate tapping X, but I just don't think about it anymore."
You do get into this sort of trap as a game developer, and we clearly have been in this of using your using the triangle button as the everything else button, right? It's a kitchen sink. You go somewhere and, hey, triangle shows up. I must be able to do something interesting
Right.
here.
Interact. Okay, cool.
So with the touchpad, the thing that we were able to do is we were able to underline physical correspondence between your gesture and the thing you were doing in the game. So if you're opening a door with the touchpad, you're kind of opening the door with the touchpad, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, well, I'm grabbing it and I'm sliding it open. Or, the thing we've shown where you kind of lift up the core on the big RV-looking thing and blast it away.
Right.
You lift it and hold it, just like Delson is. That physical correspondence really worked for us in the game. So we looked for opportunities to do that. And if there wasn't an opportunity to do that, then we just put it on a button instead.
While we're talking about something like this, Brody Williams tweets and he says, "What's the best, most unspoken / overlooked aspect of Infamous Second Son? A power? Design feature?"
That's an excellent question.
There you go, Brody.
Let's see. I think that people haven't quite gotten, and they probably won't get until they play the game, how many different ways there are to play the game.
Yeah.
Because you look at it, and especially if you're coming from an Infamous background, you kind of think of it in a way that you played Infamous. But there really are multiple ways to approach things. And if you watch people even at Sucker Punch, you'll have people who use the powers that are there in different ways. You'll have people that are very much into melee system, just running up and getting close, dashing away. You'll have people that really play the karma system hard. That's what they focus on. You'll have people that are sniping, playing from a distance. There are lots of different ways to play. And so that's, I think, the thing that people haven't picked up on yet. And also, we haven't done a great job really talking through karma and how being a good player versus being an evil player and how that changes your play style. It's one of our big focuses this time. I think we'll do it on the live stream. We'll be able to play it both ways and talk about that. But that was our big focus with karma this time was, having it change your experience as a player, having it not just be a narrative device, but actually change your play style. That if you played as good, you're actually going to play the game differently than if you played it evil. That your motivations and the mechanical things you were going to do, how you thought about a combat situation, were going to be different.
So it's more different than just either shocking someone back to life or sucking them to death.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that was fun, right?
No, that was great.
But it wasn't enough for us, and so that's one of the things we worked hardest on this game was. Saying, okay, how are we going to change things? How are we going to make it so that on your second playthrough, you actually have a different experience? And we do all the things you would normally expect of, your choices have a narrative impact. You get different missions to play. You get different powers to use as you have in past Infamous games. But we wanted that core combat loop. Hey, there are 4 bad guys over there. What am I going to do? We wanted your approach to that to actually change, and we haven't done a great job of that on previous Infamous games. This time, I think we nailed it. I think we did a great job on it.
I really enjoyed, like you said, the melee stylings, especially like the evolution of melee in Infamous was just extraordinary from the first game where it really was pretty bad, and then the second one with Amp was really really good.
Yeah.
And this one I really liked how, like, depending on if I had Smoke or Neon equipped, the melee attacks are different, and like I really enjoyed that too. And I guess that brings me to one of the questions I'm most interested in is, how did you stumble upon, we had electricity in the first one, right? And then electricity, fire, and ice in the second one. And now we have smoke and neon. And these are awesome. Like, how do you how did you stumble upon these unusual powers?
It's super interesting. I'll give you the whole story. So, unlike apparently everything else where I've only given you a partial story. So
I'm not going to half-ass it this time, guys. I'll tell you the real thing.
So this is going to sound sort of goofy, but we started off. We knew we wanted new powers in this game. We didn't want to center around electricity this time, and so we thought of it as modern elements. It's pretty obvious that you could do fire, ice, air,
right.
water, whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that felt a little tired. So we wanted to make that modern, and so we thought about things that are around you wherever you go in the modern world, right? So we'd already done electricity, which is clearly an example of that. But we thought about steel, we thought about smoke, we thought about a lot of things that you see, and we tried them out. And what we ended up with in the game, we've shown smoke and neon at this point, were things that feel natural, feel like a natural part of the world. That's really kind of core to the Infamous idea, is that this is a real world, and it kind of works like the world you're used to. It's just that there are people with superpowers in it. Mm-hmm. And so having something like that really feels grounded in the real world really helps you kind of buy into that setting, I think. So the hard part, though, was after we said, hey, smoke, that'd be cool. everyone is like, that doesn't feel like you're going to kick ass, right? It's like when you're going to blow smoke rings at guys.
You're just going to choke people and just go in their mouth.
Whatever. This doesn't sound like it's going to be that much fun, or at least it doesn't sound like it's going to feel powerful.
You got to play the long game with Smokey. They're going to get cancer in 40 to 50 years.
That's right. That's right. You're going to see expected lifespan numbers above their head going down slowly as puff smoke at them. All right, I've got another 2 weeks. This guy's going to be dead. So yeah, and then you'll be able to spend green gems to speed up their demise. Right? So it took a lot of iterations on it, and so for something like smoke, it ends up not just being smoke. We call it smoke, but if you look at it, it's smoke, but then it's smoke plus fire plus ash is really what you end up seeing. That if it's just smoke, and we did some iterations that were just smoke, you're like, well, it's kind of wussy. It just doesn't feel like I'm going to knock somebody over with that. But then once we added in some fire to it, and so what you see is kind of a projectile that's fire, but the more long-lasting part of it is smoke, then it starts feeling a little bit more powerful and it makes more sense.
So there are other powers that we don't know about that people will just stumble upon in the game.
Yes.
Awesome. That's very exciting. Like we don't know, because that with Infamous 2, like you said, knowing so much, like we knew the fire and the ice and like the bad and the good and all these kinds of so it's cool that we're just going to stumble upon these modern elements, as you say.
And hopefully, and I actually, again, you've heard the philosophy, so you shouldn't be surprised when they pop up. You won't be like, oh well, what, there's like spirit power? No, there's no spirit power in the game. It's going to be something where you're like, oh yeah, that's all around me. I never thought of it as a superpower before, but they did something cool with it.
Trees. You're going to have tree power.
Trees?
Yeah. Tree.
Yeah,
green,
no
green leaf
comment on
power.
green.
Leaf power.
Yes, no,
leaf
no
blower.
comment.
Like Woodman in Mega Man 2.
Yeah, okay, it's not going to be like Woodman. You mentioned it yourself. You're on a whole bunch of IGN properties today. The live stream, Up at Noon. Up at Noon, of course, the most casual, top level. Let's talk about Infamous. Yeah. Then the live stream will be talking about the gameplay. Podcast Beyond is the most nerdy PlayStation thing.
Excellent.
So the question
I
is,
can do nerdy.
What are the trophies like in Infamous Second Son?
Oh man, we haven't talked about it at all.
I know you
haven't.
Disappoint
you.
I assume they're like Infamous 1 and 2.
Yeah, they're in the same. I mean, they're new, obviously.
Well, sure, yeah. They're not the exact same.
They're not the exact same, but it's the same sort of thing. So, okay. I mean, it's enjoy your power, right? It's
Two great playthroughs.
It's about making sure that you're really exploring the nooks and crannies of the power sets that you get. You know, that we want to make sure that. We play the game all the time, right? And so we know all these cool little tricks you can do, little skate park style tricks you can do with the powers. Yeah. We want to make sure that players get that experience as well. And we use trophies as our way to do that, right? Mm-hmm. The trophies are kind of there to make sure that you do stunts, that you're doing tricky stuff, not just running around and shooting people. I mean, that's fun, but that's the game, right? You play that, you get that, everybody gets that. We use the trophies as our lever to get people to kind of experience the kind of less obvious cool stuff in the game.
Awesome. Can't wait to platinum it.
Nah, me
before Greg.
You won't beat it before me. Did you platinum 2 before me?
I think so, yeah.
No,
but I reviewed it, though.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I still don't think you did, though.
Well, we can find out. PSN profiles.
Yeah, we'll do that. All right. I'm good. We got a lot more to do today.
I know. I don't want to tire Chris out because Podcast Beyond listeners don't they don't know that there's just gonna be so much Infamous today in our lives.
Hopefully by the end when he's done with this now. Mm-hmm. Then he goes on, he does the live stream. Mm-hmm. Then he goes on and does Up at Noon. Mm-hmm. Then he goes to other outlets.
Right.
So I'm hoping by the end of Up at Noon we've totally wiped him out.
Right.
So he goes to other outlets. He's like, it's just
my passion for Infamous Second Son is bottomless.
Good answer.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Good luck with Infamous.
Thank you.
Comes out March
21st.
Worldwide, a Friday, right?
Yeah.
It's a Friday. I have no idea why it's a Friday.
It's a blockbuster. Everybody gets it for the weekend.
I think it's smart. Yeah. The kids will come home from school. The parents don't mind them spending all weekend with it. We don't have to worry about work.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
All right.
Well, I'll check with you on Monday the 22nd, 3rd, 4th to see what you guys think.
All right. Absolutely. Please do. And please come back whenever you'd like.
Well, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Beyond.
How'd that do for you, Megan?
That was amazing.
Right?
Great job,
Oh my
guys.
gosh.
Great
And there
job.
now the show's huge. You can't complain anymore. We have some Infamous questions, Colin.
Okay.
Megan?
Yeah.
Let's go. Noah says, Dear Colin, Greg, and guest, since we're getting ready for the amazing new Infamous, on the earlier Infamouses, did you play good or bad? And what way are you going to play in Second Son? Megan, you begin.
I was good, but I always kind of go that way for some reason. Every time I vow I'm going to do the the bad guy sort of thing, I always end up, I really want to help this person. I actually feel guilty if I don't do the good option. So in Infamous, I actually always choose the good option.
Right. Colin, we've platinumed it. Obviously, both Infamouses. Did you go good your first time?
Yes.
Both times?
Yep.
Yeah, me too. Right? It's clearly you're meant to be. They talk about it being a superhero game. Like, you want to do good. When you're doing bad, you're like, man, I'm a dick.
Yeah. I have a digital conscience for sure. Like you were saying, like I don't Mass Effect or whatever. Like I always want to be the good guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played it both. The reason you want to wait for the hard playthrough in Infamous games for second is because you're more powerful when you're a bad guy, and you can just kill things with want and abandon. Just not even so. Like if you're playing on hard your second time, it's actually better to play, the expert difficulty.
Right. You don't have to like pay attention to not killing civilians or not, restraining people. You just run through.
And I'll be doing the same thing. We should get the game this week, so I'll be doing the same thing, and I can't fucking wait.
Those trophies are out now.
Yep, they are, and they're out there, and they're not spoilery at all.
Yeah.
So there's like a bunch of collectible types and stuff like that were not in the old games. It seems like there's going to be a lot to do. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Greg, not me, has another question about Infamous. He says Beyond.
Beyond.
The collector's edition of Infamous Second Son is sold out and has been for some time. I got a notification a couple of weeks ago that it was back in stock, but before I could secure it, it was gone. Frankly, I should have pre-ordered it long ago, but I didn't, for shame. Do you guys anticipate more being available as we get closer to release? That's a big fat no.
Maybe. I doubt it.
I say no. That never happens.
No.
It sucks. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of the few times where pre-orders matter is when they do the special editions, right, Megan?
Right.
Any other game now, it's like there's no sense pre-ordering it. You don't have to worry about it. It'll be in stores. You can get it digitally. When they put in a special statue, that's when you gotta get out there.
Or an art book or like an audio CD of the soundtrack.
Right. So we'll be unboxing it here on IGN, but I think you're out of luck, Greg. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry for you. Megan, do you buy collector's editions?
Sometimes. It depends on the game.
Okay.
So I think I bought the Mass Effect 3 Collector's Edition. I want to get the Game of the Year edition for Borderlands 2, which I need to get around to. Like it has to be a special game to me, so I don't get it every single time.
Sure.
It has to be worth the money. It has to be a game I care about.
See, I used to fall for this trap where I do it for the big games I cared about, like DC Universe Online or Infamous Second Son or all these other things. But then I found I just don't do anything with it. Like Infamous 2, I had that backpack, and I still use that once in a while. But that's it has to have something in it that is practical for me.
Right.
If it's just like an audio CD or the statues are always crap. I always want really cool statues, right?
Yeah.
You get it like the Batman Arkham City one you got, and it's like all plastic. You're like,
yeah. Although PlayArts did a really good job with the Yuna and Tidus statues or action figures for Final Fantasy X-2 HD remaster. So, but that's one of those things where it's either really good or really bad. It doesn't feel like there's any in between at all.
Okay.
So.
Well, funny you
Sorry,
talk
I had
about.
a voicemail. I was just listening.
Who was it?
Just someone about GDC.
Okay. Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Funny you bring up Final Fantasy X-2.
Yeah.
We have a question here from M4 Skillshot. He says Beyond. I own both a PS3 and a Vita. I've never played Final Fantasy before. Megan, you're a Final Fantasy expert. I've never played Final Fantasy before, and I've decided that I want to buy the remaster of Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy X-2 as my first experiences. With the release being only a week out, I am starting to get really excited. But my problem is that I can't decide whether I should get the Vita version or the PS3 version. Currently, my PlayStation Vita only has Persona 4 Golden, and I think it's getting a little lonely. What are you guys planning to play it on? What do you think I should play it on? Megan, this question was designed for you.
This is a good question, by the way, because although it's cross-save compatible, it's not cross-buy. So if you want to, if you get the PlayStation 3 version, but you want to play on the go, you have to buy the Vita version separately, which isn't bad. It's just one of those things where it would be cool if the collector's edition had included some sort of cross-buy.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, exactly. So it looks great on both the PS3 and Vita. Because it doesn't have any cutscenes that you can skip over, I would actually go with the PS3 version, just because if you're on the go and you get stuck with this 15-minute cutscene, I mean, you can technically pause it, but if you want to level grind, you want to do something quicker, and you can't get past these cutscenes, it's frustrating. It really is. Yeah. So I would go with the PS3 version only for that, and I also just happen to prefer the game on a bigger screen, because that's how I game. Exactly.
Connor, are you playing these? You like the Final Fantasy every now and again.
But yeah, I've had Final Fantasy X on Vita for months. I played it for an hour, and I frankly realized that I don't like this game. So and I remembered why I don't like this game. So it was, so I just put it away.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll go back to it one day, but it's just this is not the Final Fantasy I want to play. But
this is not the Final Fantasy you're looking for?
Yeah, so like, but I've always been very vocal about the way I feel about 10.
Yeah. You like Final Fantasy 6 though, right? Did you play the iOS version?
6 is my favorite. No. That's supposed to be an abomination.
That's
A lot of people have been. It is. It's supposed to be like a total fucking abomination. Like it's all
great.
mistranslated. It's like the art sucks. Like I don't know. A lot of people have been asking me though. Like 6 is arguably. It's very easily one of the best games of all time.
Well, we had that RPG list, and it's at the top.
Yeah, and it belongs up there. I mean, it's a fantastic game, and people have been asking me where they should play it because this iOS version came out, and I still say the GBA version is probably the best.
The GBA version.
Yeah.
All right.
Because the battery's probably dead on your SNES version.
Of course.
The PS1 version's kind of fucked up. But you could download the PS1 version and play it on your Vita, too. Okay. 6. You can do that with all of them, right? 1, 2, not 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? 3's not available, I don't think. So,
No, I think it's only available on the 3DS.
Yeah. So
buy a 3DS.
Sure. Well, DS. It was a DS.
Yeah, it was a DS. I said 3DS. I meant DS.
Anthony writes in to Beyond, speaking of that Vita, and says, I've been a proud PS Vita owner since day one and loved every second. Now I'm pumped for Borderlands 2 on the Vita. With Adam Boyce tweeting, quote, I was playing a ton of Borderlands 2 Vita this week, so good. It sounds like the game is basically finished. If that is the case, why haven't we seen any gameplay? Colin, defend Borderlands 2 on the Vita.
I have nothing to defend. I mean, we haven't seen it. I've heard a few things about it, but like nothing of really any substance, nothing I can share.
Yeah.
I think it'll be out, soon. And
I think your first look isn't far. I don't
Yeah.
think your first look from it's far. The fact that, they're playing. I mean, think of it this way, Anthony, right? Is like, you're talking about a game that is a PS3 game getting brought over to Vita, and it's a game that a lot of people know really well. This isn't a remake. This isn't a remaster. This isn't something that's been on the shelf for years, right? People know what Borderlands 2 should look like, so I'm assuming they're putting every waking moment into polishing that and making sure it looks as good as it can.
I can't remember. Is it supposed to include all the DLC as well?
Not all of it, but a lot of it.
Okay.
There's a lot of it does, but not all of it. There's some stuff that's missing.
Okay.
But it does cross-save and bring your stuff back and forth.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I would think that mainly it's just the fact that they don't want to have a horrible impression out. And what are we talking about for release yet? Have they announced that?
No, but I think
Still saying spring in
yeah,
quotes?
like the bundle is supposed to come out with the PS Vita Slim and
Okay.
I think you're right. I think that there are expectations with this game. I also think this is a cool game in terms of, I like Borderlands 2. It wasn't something I got into like you guys did, but
yeah.
I think it's a really cool game. It's a quest-based shooting is fucking awesome and somewhat unique. But it was an example of a game that people wanted and Sony made happen. And I think that Sony funded this game and are publishing it in tandem with 2K. So it's I hope it's good and I hope it does well because we can maybe get more of these. A lot of people have been talking, for instance, about From Software and Demon's Souls and Dark Souls and all these kinds of games. And wouldn't it be cool if Demon's Souls 2 came out? And I know Atlas. There was this confusing story, by the way, about how Atlas was like, we can guarantee there'll be no Demon's Souls 2.
Yeah,
and I'm
I
like, you
read that
don't own
article.
that IP, so how can you possibly guarantee that? I'm super convinced that there will be a Demon's Souls 2, and that Sony realized that they made a huge fucking mistake with
Right.
that original game. Not only not bringing it here, but then letting From walk away and go make Dark Souls, which is the same fucking game. So it's just one of those examples where I think like a game like that would be really cool on Vita too, and so maybe we'll get a little taste of some of these console experiences.
Yeah, you figure if this could work out, right? What we're always talking about is that Sony has to prove the Vita to people. So if they can prove there are these Vita players out there who want their experiences from PlayStation 3 or whatever brought over and have cross-save, then people start doing it. If they can sell that game and that game does really well and there's all of a sudden people are talking about the Vita positively, well, there you go. And if it comes out and it's another, this doesn't work, then it's all shot to hell and nobody cares. And this could be like one of the bigger things for Sony right now as far as the Vita.
It's a huge game. And it might sell like a few 100,000 copies for them, which would be awesome for them. I mean, that's not a huge success for other companies.
Sure. But if it gets that install base up, get my Madden to copy over. That's all I want. Liz writes in and says, Beyond. So when I first read that The Last of Us was going to become a movie, I was not very happy. I have low expectations for video game movies in general, and I would prefer to play a game by Naughty Dog rather than watch a movie by them. But as time goes on, I'm getting less pessimistic and more excited. Neil and Bruce have always expressed a seriousness about their stories, a, quote, creative integrity, if you will. They say they won't tell a story unless it's worth telling. I'm realizing that this movie could actually be good, even great. So what do you guys think? Are you hopeful, excited for this movie? Thanks, Liz. This didn't make the Roper Report.
No.
But what happened is, they announced this past week that, there's a Last of Us movie in the works. Neil is writing it. Sam Raimi is producing it. Is that right? Or directing it? I forget. Anybody?
Ooh.
Anybody? No? Sam Raimi's involved as well. The guy from Spider-Man, the guy from the Evil Dead movies. I mean, knee-jerk reaction, right, is, God, really? Another video game movie? Like, especially after, like, the Uncharted movie, right, that went nowhere.
That's
Marky
right.
Mark's involved in this, and then directors keep coming and going on it. But I think this is a different story in the fact that Neil Druckmann, who wrote The Last of Us, is writing this movie.
Yeah, so you think it'd be better.
They're involved from the ground floor. It sounds like they have a collaborative process with what's happening. They're not just cut out. It's not just a property Sony has sold to somebody to option for a script.
Sure. But they still are beholden to the studio, right?
Well, sure. But if they're part of the process, hopefully, it doesn't just become a zombie movie, people running around 28 days later.
But is this The Last of Us like Joel and Ellie?
I don't think they've said.
Okay. I was
Or
going
is
to
it
say,
just in the
because it's
world?
like the best movie I've ever played. That's how I describe
Right.
The Last of Us, because
Right.
it's so cinematic and has such great acting and everything. It's like and the gameplay is fun, but it's just like, really it's known for the acting and the cinematics and everything. So
You keep talking. I'm going to try to find it here.
okay, no.
But like, what was interesting is that I think Bruce tweeted the fact that like when everybody obviously was up in arms that they're making this movie, he's like, there's never been a good video game movie, right? But there's a first for everything. Like, I like the fact that they're taking a shot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe they're going to do it.
Weren't they supposed to do a Mass Effect movie though too?
Well, see, but that's
And
the
Gran
whole...
Turismo and Uncharted. This is why I didn't bring it even up. I'm like, I'm not even convinced this game's
Sure.
going to happen.
No, I understand that 100%.
It's
just
nice to dream.
Okay, so it's a Sam Raimi produced The Last of Us movie, but that's the thing is like this is the one time where I feel like it's a different story. Is that it's not just that there's going to be a Prince of Persia movie or an Uncharted movie or whatever, and maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. This time they have the people from the very beginning on board with it. Screen Gems, the studio behind Resident Evil. Sam Raimi though, he's done as producers. Screenplay will be penned by Neil Druckmann, who will produce the film along with Raimi. I think I hold out hope that, right?
They should have Troy Baker actually play Joel, though. He's a good-looking dude.
Yeah,
Good
well, I
actor.
mean, they could do that with Ellie, too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Ashley
Johnson. They can, retcon it a little bit, make her older.
Yeah, no talk of who's in it or whatever. See, that's the thing. I'd rather it not be Joel and Ellie's story, but I think Joel and Ellie's story is so
in the
good.
Same universe. Yeah, because it's such a good story. Unless
Yeah.
it's Joel's story along with what's the woman in the
Tess.
Thank you,
That'd be
Tess.
good.
Like it could be their story.
See, when you do that, though, that's when you start to... That's when it'll get weird if it's like the Uncanny Valley thing, right? Of like... You kind of look like Joel, but you're not Joel, and like you know what I mean, because it'll be a guy who looks like Joel but doesn't sound like Troy Baker, or vice versa.
Yeah, but aren't they supposed to appeal to a wider audience? So people who haven't played the game, they're going to want to bring in a wider audience, right? Like
Sure.
not just I almost said Uncharted fans, because for some reason now I'm thinking Nolan North. I'm thinking of great
Get
voice
Nolan
actors.
in there, yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Well, no, he could come back as the creepy David.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
creepy David.
But yeah.
I don't know. It's exciting that they're involved with it. I think I'm still totally hesitant. Will it ever happen? Who knows? The movie industry is so weird that people buy these scripts and then just sit on them or options for movies.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're involved, I think, is at least promising.
Yeah, it's cool. I wish that Neil would just focus on making a sequel.
Let him go get famous.
Good for him. I'm happy for him.
Then he
Neil's
can
good
make
guy.
a Superman movie.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Poor Greg, you're still hoping for a good.
Batman, Superman, that might be the one. Let's not hold that.
What else you got?
Runart writes in, and Runart says, Beyond.
Beyond.
Colin, will you get the new 311 CD or pass on it? I know you did not like the style of the last release, but will you give the band another shot?
Yeah, of course. They'll always be with me in my heart.
There's a new one out today. It's 311 Day.
Yep.
It's March 11th. You already had the 311 podcast Beyond. Now you got this 311 Day.
Yeah. I've been. I got up this morning and got on the elliptical.
Yeah? You're working out?
It was on Spotify, and I listened to the first 3/4 of it, and I've listened to the whole thing now. It's good. It's a good album. Like I'm surprised. Their old producer Scott Ralston produced it from the 90s, and you can hear it. His fingerprints are all over it, which is cool. So it's not a great record by any mere stretch of imagination. Much better than the abominations they put out in the last 10 years, though.
Okay.
I didn't even know they were still around, to be
Oh, yeah.
perfectly honest.
They'll
They had
never-
that like one album that everybody knows, and then I'm like, that's it. That's
Amber.
all I know.
That wasn't it. You're talking about the Blue album, Down and all mixed up. And all that
Yes.
stuff.
But Amber,
That's
that
That was
the-
like
that's the
20
jam.
years ago.
I know. That's why I'm like,
Yeah, they're
still
old.
around.
They're like 45 years old now. And
That's okay. AC/DC still around. I saw their last concert a few years ago. They're still
Really?
awesome. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've been to their concert twice because my younger brother Patrick is a huge AC/DC fan. So
That's
whenever
awesome.
they're in town, we always try to get tickets.
Does the one guy still wear like the little school uniform thing with like the shorts and the
Oh
tie?
yeah, they all rock out.
Is that what
and-
it's supposed to be? I don't even know. I just
don't
know what he
know.
looks
I know
like.
you're talking
Malcolm,
about,
I
yeah.
think his name is Malcolm Young. Of course, I'm on the spot, so I'm forgetting.
It's
So
okay, don't worry.
It's, yeah.
Our final question of the week comes from Aaron. He says Beyond.
Beyond.
So it's my friend's birthday on Monday, and I thought a good gift would be to give him PlayStation Plus. But since he doesn't really like the idea of having to pay every year to keep games you get, do you think I'm locking him into paying for this service by buying it for him first?
Yes.
I think so too, but I think once he sees it, that's the whole thing. I think PlayStation Plus is a great gift.
I think it's a really good. I mean, it's so worth it. I mean, especially in the past few months, they've been on a real roll with giving you like all sorts of really cool free games. Like, I think this month that like Tomb Raiders are free. I got
Tomb Raider was free.
Tomb Raider's free. I got Borderlands 2 for free. Like back in November was Dragon's Dogma. Like they have all sorts of really cool stuff. I mean, it actually kind of pays for itself.
It's one of those things. Even I don't think you're locking him into it, right? Because is your friend going to be? He's getting all these free games, so is he going to be milking it for a year? Oh man, I got Tomb Raider and I didn't finish it, and I got to pay for it again. I'm so close to the scene. No, he'll play what he plays, and then either lets it roll over, or he's back on board.
Yeah, he doesn't have to re-sign up for it.
He should though.
He should.
PlayStation Plus
I think
awesome.
he'll be convinced, but once he gets a taste of it, but whatever.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Podcast Beyond, episode 333. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, the podcast posts as an MP3 every Tuesday, then a video every Wednesday with breakout sessions throughout the week to make sure you double-click and get really mad that you see something you've already seen or heard. Remember that IGN keeps the mics on, so go to IGN.com, read the articles, watch the videos, then download that PlayStation 4 app, do stuff there. Then make sure you follow everybody on Twitter. IGN is IGN. I'm Game Over Greggy. Colin is No Taxation. Megan is Megan_IGN.
That's it.
Nailed it. Oh,
good
that
job.
Felt good, Colin.
I also want to give a shout out to Rob Paulson. It's his birthday today.
Oh, Yakko Pinky.
Yeah.
Every tweet Yakko Pinky and say happy birthday.
Exactly. Happy birthday.
Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.